Welcome to Real Talk, a place where we have real conversations about faith and doubt with real people. I'm your host, Pastor Thea, currently serving at First United Methodist Church Pearland, leading our outreach and New Song community. I'm so glad that you have tuned in today, and I am joined by three of our members at First United Methodist Church who are involved both with our student ministry but also in worship regularly, and they have agreed to share a little bit about their faith today. So I want to let you guys introduce yourselves and why you said yes to talking on a podcast about Jesus.
Okay, hi, I'm Sydney, and I agreed to talk on this podcast today because I feel it's very important for people to hear other people's perspectives and other people's voice and their stories, and I feel like my story is just as important as everybody else's. So,
hi, I'm Cash. I agree with her. I like to get the word out there, have my voice heard, and yeah.
Hi, I'm Lexi, and I decided to share my faith today to also give a different point of view and allow others to take my point of view everyone's point of view, and then also theirs, and see what they think about faith and how it affects them.
Awesome. Well, again, I'm so glad that you both, all three of you, agreed to come and spend a little bit of your day off talking about Jesus and just the ways that all three of you have been really active in our church community, in our worship service, sharing your ideas, your time, your energy. So thank you for that. I want to jump right in and ask, how was faith first introduced to your life? And how has that faith influenced your understanding of Christian community, connection, the church?
So I grew up in the church, naturally being with like my family and all that kind of stuff, but it really didn't start hitting me until about maybe the summer before my sophomore year, whenever I started gifts camp at FUMC. So I think that was kind of when my faith kind of just like pushed me a little bit more. And so as I went and as I was volunteering at gifts camp, it definitely like my faith definitely has evolved since then. And so I feel like, yeah, growing up in the church, but I don't think I really understood everything about the church and everything like obviously being in a Christian community and being in the church until I was older to be able to grasp, because like my faith wasn't necessarily forced onto me, but I feel like I didn't really have a chance to kind of choose for myself to, like how I wanted to go about my life. But Gifts Camp definitely helped, so.
Yeah, I also grew up in the church, and it was just kind of like a regular thing where we didn't go every Sunday, but I mean, we attended church, and I actually committed my life to Christ the summer of my freshman year, so going into my sophomore year, and I was at a summer camp, and that's where it all started. And yeah, that's where it all just kind of started, and then it kind of took off from there, and now I'm a part of like a bunch of different like Christian organizations and all of these things. And so you're able to, it really only starts with one thing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I've also been a Christian my entire life. My entire family has gone to church for forever. My mom had always worked in a church up until a few years ago, so I was constantly at the church, even not on Sundays, when she was working or anything like that. And I was always at the church, and I think that really influenced my faith. But yeah, I've always been at the church, and it wasn't till not super recently, but maybe this summer that I started getting more involved with doing, especially after Army, a summer camp. That was so impactful in my life, and it made me want to do more with the church. And ever since then, I've been coming to church more recently, singing with the worship team, being on the New Song team, the PSM team, and just digging more into my faith.
Yeah. So it sounds like that you've had this Christian foundation, and then there were these experiences where you really kind of made it your own. Could you talk a little bit more? Like, what was it about Gifts Camp or the summer camp or maybe Army that what helped make your faith your own from these experiences?
I've actually never been asked that, so thank you for asking me that, because I feel like I haven't been able to really talk about it, because, yeah, people see, like, how happy I am, but I don't think people really understand the depth of what it truly meant to me. So basically, like, with Gifts Camp, just the people that I was around, like, that whole week, and, like, even seeing the kids and how happy they were just, like, be around us and be around, like, our classes. But I really feel like I said, the people and, like, everybody, like, people who were influencing me and, like, actually helping me get through it. And I really feel like just being, having the feeling of being a part of FUMC for that whole week, like when we were doing, say, Sanctuary, we were doing worship every morning, like that definitely skyrocketed my, not necessarily my will, but like my drive to really become more involved in my faith. And so I really think Gifts Camp definitely kind of catapulted that because of the people that I was around and like all the different emotions that I was feeling, the different, like, of like all the different people I was talking to. So it kind of just, it made a difference. And then, like, over the summer, I also got more involved with Pearland Student Ministry, which is our youth group at the church. So PSM definitely also really helped me. I was doing stuff with them over the summer, and I was very active with PSM, and I still am. But I think that, like, John definitely helped me a lot, too, because I did talk to him about it, and he was actually the one that invited me to come to church on a Sunday after Gifts Camp. And so he was kind of like, I went up to him, and I was like, hey, like, I really like being here, and I really want to see, like, what y'all are all about. And so I talked to him about coming to church and, like, trying to be more active, and he was all on board with it. So he definitely also played a big part in that. So,
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna go back a little bit, and I'll start from that. I was at a different church, and I left during like COVID time, and that's whenever I lost my grandparents, and they were like the biggest Christians that I knew, and that was what I stopped believing in God, because like I said, I grew up in the church, so I always thought that it was just everybody believed in God, and then that's whenever I kind of found that, oh, I don't have to do this, and so I just didn't, and it was definitely I don't know, it was not a good time. I turned away friends. I turned away family. I just kind of locked myself in my room. I turned to suicide, stuff like that, and it just wasn't a good time. And I have this friend named Andrew Bennett, and he constantly invited me to a thing called Wildlife at the time because we were in junior high. And it was, I didn't want to. It was just this thing that I didn't want to go to. It was a bunch of kids gathered, and they had played games and talked about God. And then he invited me periodically throughout that year, and then to a thing called Young Life throughout my freshman year. The last week of freshman year, I said yes. I went and I had a great time, and then I went to that summer camp. And then my leader, Taylor Johnson, we went to this thing called Salsa House on the last night of that summer camp. And it was where you got chips and salsa, and you just sat down at a table with your leader. We had about 5 guys, and everything closed down at like 11 or something. They let us stay in there till about 2 a.m. And we were just talking, asking questions, getting them answered. And that was the night that I realized. And so then the next day, I committed my life to God.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, my mom always worked in the church. She had her entire life. And so that made me really, I feel like, I don't want to say more a part of the, even more part of the church than others, but I was definitely there more often, and I had a different understanding. And then when she finally left, I think a few months before COVID, I think COVID had an impact on this too, but it felt like since she didn't have to be there because she didn't work anymore, I didn't have to be there. And I feel like it gave me a sense of being less important. And I know that sounds really bad, but just going around the church all the time with my mom, going into all the secret rooms and setting up the tables and helping her with anything, I feel like that made me more close to Christ. And then leaving that all behind, it was such a different feeling. And I was going to church less, and even if I did go, I wasn't having as much fun. And then, like I said, I started going a little bit more, and then UM Army came around. And I had always loved doing volunteer stuff like that. I loved the Be the Church days, and I loved volunteering for Gifts Camp and VBS. And I also just loved doing outside work overall. And then UM Army came around, and it was, like, incredible. It's the most impactful thing I've ever been through in my life, having to do with my faith. And coming back from that experience, it was incredible. I mean, there you saw people that needed help, and then you helped them, and then it helped you because you just felt so much better about yourself. And that really impacted my faith from there on. Like I said earlier, I was becoming more part of the church and doing things that helped me be closer to Christ.
Yeah. I think it's so neat that your stories are all different. And yet it was through Christian community that you were offered opportunities to serve and to lead, to be around other believers, to hear their stories, and even to be vulnerable enough to share yours or just your time and your talent and be willing to give. I remember I came to visit UM Army last year up in Huntsville, and you were nailing something into a thing. I don't know. You were working with wood and nails. I'm clueless on that kind of stuff. And you had like a partner with you who was not doing it correctly. I didn't even know what was supposed to happen, but I know they weren't. But you, Lexi, I watched you be so patient. Because inside of me, I was like, she knows he's wrong. She knows that's not how to do it, but she's going to go ahead and let him do it wrong, let him figure out that it's wrong, and then tell him. And that's what you did, is I just kind of watched on the sidelines that you're like, okay, yeah. And then y'all did it. And then he was like, oh, that doesn't work. And you're like, nope, it doesn't. And you just, but even that, like, you had that experience of being able to learn, like, sometimes when you're working with people, they have an idea that isn't good, but you gotta let them live it out and know it's not the end of the world. And like, instead of fighting or arguing with him, you were able to just be like, okay, let's try it your way. Yep, that didn't work. Now what? And you even, I would imagine you told him, it's okay you failed. It's okay you made a mistake. It's okay that we have to do it all over again, because we're not on a time crunch. It's not about getting it done quickest. It's about the fact that we're here and that we get to be a part of this. And that's what I heard too from your stories, is that you got to be a part of, and then the faith really got to be your own, and you weren't just an attender, kind of at the arm of your parents, but like, oh, I belong here. I matter. And maybe this faith is supposed to matter to me. Where are some places that you see, Christians, churchgoers, connecting well? And then where do you see where we could maybe learn and grow and stretch?
Well, with connecting well, I feel like there are so many Christians everywhere. So, like, I work at a restaurant, so all of us are kind of like majority of us have the same religious beliefs. And so kind of like, even after, because yesterday was Resurrection Sunday and Easter, so we definitely had a long conversation about Easter and about like all the different things and like how we kind of became about our faith journeys. But I really see the Christian community connecting very well when it comes to mission trips, and definitely during worship, and also kind of like just outside the church and outside of like our safe space, if you will, because like seeing people now I walk around seeing people at school like wearing Jesus Loves You shirts, and it makes me very happy, because just like the fact that people are seeing it and people are finally embracing their faith instead of like hiding from it, because now like in our day and age it's like, oh, well, if you don't do this, like, you're not cool, which definitely also plays a big part, but we'll talk about that later. But I think that there are little things that we all connect with that bring us together as a community. And I think that, like, it's just the little things that matter to us. And so it's like, and I have multiple Bible study groups that I go to, and so I feel like that really also brings us together. But, I mean, just sharing the love for God and, like, I don't know, just there's so many things that connect us together. But I definitely will say, I want to see less of, not necessarily judgment, but like that silent judgment, because a lot of us, like especially people that like who are our age, like 16, 17, 18, like I feel like everyone's in a different spot because of how they grew up. So I feel like it's not necessarily a matter of it's a race, because as long as you start your journey, that's a start. But I think that a lot of the times, at least I do, I feel silently judged because I wasn't like, and I was telling my coworker yesterday, I was like, I wish I would have started my faith a little sooner. That way I can avoid like the backlash of starting when I was 16 versus when I was like 5, you know? But I think that people being more open to everyone's story and everyone's journey starting at different times in their lives, because God calls you at different times for a reason. So, but I did have a good friend, our friend Caleb said that it doesn't matter when you started, just the fact that you started puts you steps ahead of other people. And so,
I also want to branch off. There are so many good like Christian like clothing brands out there that, I mean, I'm wearing one right now. I really like all those clothing brands because it does.
feel good.
You're able to to wear it, and it can also start and invoke conversations that you would have not gotten to have otherwise. So yeah, and then also I'm in a group chat with my young life leader with maybe like 15 other people, and he just sends a daily text every day with scripture and like all this stuff, and it's so nice. Like I just get to read it, and it's he sends it in the morning. Like sometimes it's like whenever I'm not even awake yet, because I don't have first, and then on Mondays and Fridays I don't have second period either. And so sometimes like I'll wake up to the text, and so it's just a nice start to the day. But yeah, it's a really nice text that we get to have, and it's a great way that everybody can connect through that text. And then let's see, social media is a big terror aparter. If that's not a word, but you know,
I'll take it.
yeah, social media. Everybody judges through that. Like, you judge through the amount of likes. You judge through this. And if you post one thing about, oh, I did this that was Christian and this that wasn't, and if the one that wasn't got more likes, then you're only going to post one that wasn't. And it's such like a damaging thing that people really thrive for the likes whenever just post your life. Like, the other day I posted something on my story that was it was a room of people, and they were singing I don't remember what song they were singing, but it was some Christian song. And like I was like, what I would give to be in that room. Like it was such like a awesome feeling. Yeah, that was a really cool like video, but then there's also the side of social media that's like, what are you doing being a Christian? Like there's all of this, and so you have to be careful on social media. It can either bring you closer or farther from God.
Yeah, Cash is right. I really feel like even yesterday I was posting all the stuff about Easter. I like, to me, it felt kind of uncomfortable. Yes, I was doing it for a reason, but I felt like I was not necessarily annoying people, but like people who don't understand it, I was kind of like, okay, like, are they going to be annoyed with me? But at that point, I was like, actually, I really don't care, because it's something that everybody, like, seeing how many people really saw it and like really enjoyed looking at it. Because as I was going through all the Instagram stories yesterday, everyone's posting for Easter, it made me realize how much of a community, like how big the community actually is, and how much people actually really celebrate Easter versus like, oh, just Easter egg hunts and like nothing else, you know.
Yeah,
So
I liked just about every story that I saw.
Yeah.
That was about Easter.
To push more into the social media thing, I have a friend, and she's always been Christian, but recently she's been showing her Christianity more on her social media and everything. And then she told me when she had her first post, like, I'm not sure what it was, but had to do with her faith, and she lost a bunch of followers. And it's expected, but like once it happens to a friend or it happens in real life, it's like, whoa, you know, like if you're not following me for my personality and what I believe in, then why are you even here, you know? And this girl and this other girl at my school, Maren Monaghan and Phoenix Walwyn, they always wear, kind of like what we were saying earlier, they wear
Christian merch.
Christian merch. I was gonna say that. And they walk around with their Bibles and they post on their stories. And I see Phoenix's stories, and she's singing at her church, and she's like writing songs about her faith. And Maren's posting her Bible journaling, and it's so inspiring. And I think that's an example of a good way of showing Christianity on social media, because it inspires others and it shows your point of view, and how you see faith and how you see your faith. And yeah, it just gives you another point of view to look at and see what they believe. And honestly, their faith trail has been so inspiring.
Yeah.
I love that y'all brought up like the Christian tees, t-shirts. I'm a big fan. But I thought I was just an old lady that like, it's like, I'm going to wear my faith. I'm a pastor, so I'm going to wear my faith. But as I think about that, it has sparked so many conversations with strangers. I mean, you know, I just on Friday, I think I might have been wearing the same shirt. I was somewhere and someone was like, oh, I like your shirt. And I was like, oh, thank you. But like, we were just passing and I thought, wow, is this an opportunity for a conversation? Or did I just give her a little spark of like, I'm not the only one in the world. I'm not the only one in this room who has that belief. And I know for me, it's like, I don't have social media. And so I was like, well, my t-shirts are like my Instagram. It's like, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling today, you know? And it is a great conversation starter, and to be, and it's the same if you wear athletic apparel or young life, like, you know, it's like, oh, what's that? You know, it's an easy way to start that conversation. And I think it's really neat that there are growing with, you know, brands and designs and new things like that, so that you can be a little more bold about it. But I also hear you that while social media does give you an opportunity to connect, make you help you not feel alone, you know, share and like what's going on in the world around you, it also opens yourself up to the criticism. I mean, you're literally telling the entire world what you think, and some people aren't going to like it, you know, and because it's anonymous, they're not looking you in their face, they can, you know, respond to that with either an unfollow or a hateful comment, right? And so, and there's just this reality, I think, that when you're bold and honest with your faith, well, people won't like it. I mean, the whole reason we have a Resurrection Sunday is because we have a Crucifixion Friday, right? Where Jesus's faith and belief and truth of who he is was not received. And it wasn't just one person, right? We can't just blame Judas. We can't just blame Caiaphas. We can't just blame Pontius. It's the whole society, right? There was so many who let that happen because they too didn't like what he had to say, and the threat that might be. And while we're probably blessed that we live in this country and this part of the country where we can walk around with Jesus tees and nobody throws paint on us, but there's probably a piece of maybe when I do walk into a coffee shop with a Be the Light t-shirt on, someone's like, ugh.
Yeah, I feel you with that. Like even being at school, because there's so many opinions, so many perspectives, so much of everything. And it's like when I first wore my Jesus Loves You shirt, or Jesus Loves Y'all, and like it has Jesus Loves Y'all and then it has Jesus Loves Y'all on the back, I was wearing it with pride, but I felt like a part of me was like, oh, like maybe someone isn't appreciating this because they haven't been introduced to it yet, or they don't understand it. Like even yesterday when we were talking about it at work, one of my coworkers asked, what is our purpose in life, and how are we significant in life if I don't believe in if there actually is a God? Like, if I don't believe in if I don't believe in if I don't believe in the Bible, if I don't believe in the historic parts about the Bible, and if the Old Testament is quote unquote if the Old Testament is what they called made up, or if it was an exaggeration, or if it was like a definite, like I don't even know how they described it, but how they described it was very, very perturbing to me, because it's just like, if you're not willing to be open about listening to somebody about their faith, and they're confiding in you about what they went through, why don't you respect anybody else's view? But that's the whole thought. That's the problem with the world today. I feel like nobody is, like, everyone thinks that they're right. And I will say that, like, everyone, like, even I, sometimes I think I'm like, oh, I'm not wrong, but
I am.
But I am. Like, it baffles me, because it's just like, everybody has their set opinion, but they're not open to hearing anybody else's, which is very hurtful. Mm-hmm. But I mean, yeah, you're right. It's a good conversation started, but then it's like, there's like the what ifs. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, at least I worry about that.
Yeah.
I don't know about y'all, but I worry about that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with these, difficulties, how do we move past it? What are some solutions, some options, some hopes and dreams for Christian community today?
You pray for people. You keep people in your prayers. You not necessarily try to push them to it, but you kind of ease your way into introducing it to them. And I feel like if you were able to say, like, hey, like, if you just invite them in, you're like, hey, let's talk about it, because I know you're feeling X, Y, Z, so let me help you get a better understanding of why you feel like that and what you think can feel better about it. So,
I mean, yeah, like what she said, like I said, how I was constantly introduced, and he wasn't pushy about it, but he, let's say, every other week invited me, and it was just like, hey, come to Wildlife. Didn't ask multiple times. If I was like, what is that? He would tell me, but he wouldn't push me on it. He would invite me and then leave it alone. Because he knew that God would have his way. He would eventually have me say yes. Yeah. And eventually I said yes, and it changed my life. So ask that person and find one person and pray about them. Ask them to go to church with you. And just kind of push that one person. Once you get them, then y'all can each get one person. And that's how the community really grows. Yeah. But you don't really want to be pushy about it, because that's how you turn people away. And that's what like the whole like community around Christianity is that everybody thinks that we're like pushy people and that we can only see one side. But I feel like you should have to be open to conversation and listening, and that's how you're able to really get people to listen to you.
I agree. I feel, like Cash said, social media has been making Christians seem like bad people recently, and that Christians believe, oh, if you're not Christian, you're a bad person, or, things like that. And in reality, every Christian is different, and that's not the case. And I think the best way to help someone through their Christianity is to start small. Like Cash said, the only reason he's here today is because he told Andrew Bennett yes. And I think that's really beautiful, just starting small. And you don't have to read your Bible every day to be a Christian. You don't have to pray before every meal to be a Christian. I think being a Christian is doing what you believe helps your faith.
Yeah.
No, Lexi's right. I definitely did. I used to struggle with that a lot, because, like, I'm going to be honest, I haven't been to church, like, not since yesterday, but, like, I didn't go for about 3 weeks. I mean, obviously life happens, but to me, like, my conscience was just like, oh, you're terrible. Like, you're not serious about your faith, like, all this kind of stuff. And so I think that honestly. It's something I still struggle with. Like, I still try to do my best to have Devo every Sunday if I don't go to church. Even if I do, like, I still try to have Devo. But, I mean, I feel like there's so many stereotypes of a Christian that we think we're supposed to live up to, but it just makes things so much harder to really be authentic in your faith. Because not everyone's perfect. No Christian is perfect.
Yeah, I feel like there could be a lot of pressure being Christian and feeling that guilt of, like you said, not going to church on Sunday or not praying before you go to sleep. And I think social media is also helping that be more a part of people's lives.
Yeah. As each of you were talking about just kind of being open and really, I love what you said, Cash, listening. I think that's probably where I would argue Christians need to grow the most, is a willingness to listen. I know that early in my childhood and adolescence, I didn't want anything to do with church because every Christian I knew was pushy. I felt like they were trying to sell me Jesus, and I thought I had already bought in because I believed. Okay, I believed. I didn't have a relationship, but no one offered me that. They just kept trying to get me like to subscribe and to sign up for their, weekly newsletter. And it was just like, I don't need that. If God is so great, God already loves me. Like, what do I need your track for? But as y'all were talking about that, and just, again, these conversations, being willing to ask questions, being willing to listen and to share your own story. I actually was reminded of the story of Ananias and Saul, who is later called Paul. When Paul is blinded on the road to Damascus, he's on his way to get rid of Christians because they're causing a ruckus. Killing Jesus didn't help. It only sparked a fire, and he is met by Jesus on a road. He's turned blind and has to be helped for several days. And while that's happening, Ananias gets a voice from God that says, go to your brother Saul. And Ananias is like, Saul, the one who's killing Christians? No, you must be mistaken, Lord. Like, that's not who I need to go to. And God's like, that's who I need you to go to, Ananias. And he goes. And, we've got a little bit of what that conversation was like, where Ananias is something like, Brother Saul, God has sent me to you, and that you will be a part of spreading this word. But I would imagine that there had to also have been some just getting to know you, right? Hey, how you doing? Heard you had a crazy experience. Do you want to talk about it? In all honesty, I'm a little nervous here. Don't pull out your sword and kill me. I do believe in Jesus, but I wonder if there wasn't just there more of a conversation, and that even before the scales could fall from Saul's eyes, that there had to have been some trust built between him and Ananias, right? And just the boldness and the willingness for him to come to someone who is a known enemy, right? And as I think about that, I just think about people in my family who, don't have a faith and seem so shut off to even a conversation about my career, like what I do for a living, how I spend every single day, and how often I don't even have the boldness to say, what are you afraid of? Why are you angry with me? What do you believe? I know that that's something that I've been trying to work into those conversations, especially on Easter, right? I have family members who do not believe in Jesus texting me Happy Easter. And I think, what are you celebrating? You don't send me a text on Patrick's Day. You don't send me a Happy Valentine's, or I don't know, Flag Day. You don't send me, if this is just a Hallmark holiday for you, you don't reach out on those days. Like, what is it that you're celebrating? What is it that you believe? And there's even this piece of me that wonders, is that an entrance? Is that an invitation to have that deeper conversation, for me to go where I'm afraid to go, right? To a person who could hurt me because they're close to me, and what if they do shut me down? What if they do pull out their sword? But to try and find that power and courage to just, again, ask, what is this like for you? And listen instead of tell them the truth. I wonder if that wasn't the listening that Ananias offered that, again, helped helped Paul really see.
Yeah, I think too, like back with the family thing, Pastor Thea, you're so right about that because my grandmother actually is a pastor herself, but the way she goes about things definitely is something that I agree with. And like, yeah, she shares her faith, but it's not the way that Jesus would want her to. And I feel like the way she speaks to other people who aren't like, I guess, on her same level, like I really wanted to call my grandma and ask her about my faith, but I felt like she wouldn't have been receptive of me, and I feel like she wouldn't have been able to help me as much as I like had hoped she would, only because I felt like she would have just kind of shut me down. But like she's not on the older side to where it's like she's very traditional, but she's not like in our like in your generation. Like she definitely, well, I will say she's traditional. She's a very traditional Christian, if like traditional Christian, because and I put traditional Christian in quotations because like there's no such thing as traditional, but for how people used to describe it, it's like there's a certain way you have to be as a Christian. So that, and I think that's how she is, and she's kind of stuck in that. So I haven't spoken to her in about a year because of it, and it sucks because it's your grandma. So
Yeah. So with all of this difficulty, right? Both the fear of rejection, the fear of criticism, the fear of am I enough, right? I think you all kind of mentioned that too. What compels you to still choose Christian community? Why are you still a part of a church? Why are you willing to be around other Christians? What compels you if it is so difficult?
I think the joy that it brings me, like even yesterday being in worship service, I actually almost cried during worship, and I don't think I haven't cried in worship in a very long time. Like, I don't know. Last time I cried in worship was probably at Young Life. And I'm not a crier. I don't get emotional that often, but I think yesterday, seeing how everybody was just enjoying everyone's presence of each other and like everyone like celebrating Resurrection Sunday, and I think that it just made sense because it's like you are part of a community and y'all all share the same beliefs, y'all share the same love for the same person, so it's kind of like you definitely feel different. Like it makes me feel so much better. Like I go like how I live my life is way different than how I think I would have if I wasn't a part of a Christian if I wasn't a part of the Christian community. So I think, like I said, just the joy that it brings me and like the people that it's brought me, and it just reminds me of like all the things that I'm blessed with. Yeah. So I think that kind
of. I think for me, so I'm gonna go back to this summer. I did a thing called Work Crew, which it's through Young Life, and it's where I go and I serve at the camps that they have through the summer. And I actually did it with Andrew, and we served at a camp in Michigan for a month. So we lived in Michigan for a month with a bunch of people we've never met before, and had work crew leaders, all these people, didn't know any of them going into it. And leaving, we're all crying, like not wanting to say goodbye. I still talk to just about every single one of them. Like you become a family. And I think I was just thinking about it while Sydney was talking, and I think that's why it brought me to that video that I posted on my Instagram of all the people in the room singing the song. I also remember the song. It was the Our God is an Awesome God. It's that song. And it's during Work Crew, we don't get to be in the room where the talks happen or anything like that because we're cleaning up their dishes, or we're mowing the lawn, or we're doing stuff like that. And we would do stuff in our own cabin where it was one of the worker leaders with a guitar, one student with a mic, and that was it. And everybody would stand up, put your arm around each other, and we would just sing. And you don't have to have the best voice. You just have to feel the words and speak through them. And so it's definitely that was definitely a highlight. I miss work crew so much. If I could go back, I would. But yeah, that was we became such a tight knit group, and I mean, yeah, we argued, yeah, we fought, but it was, if you're around someone 24/7, you're gonna do that. But then at the end of the day, y'all love each other, and the next day is a new day. So yeah.
I think it's definitely the people you meet. It was when I first came to church. Obviously, I like church. I like singing, and I like going to worship and going to youth group. But my favorite part was always seeing my friends that I would only see on Sundays. And even when I was really young, I would talk about my faith to them, like people like Charlotte and Maddie and Meg and Alyssa, and just being around them, being someone who has the same beliefs as you, is so inspiring, and it gives you this feeling that they're never gonna leave, you know. And I mean, along my journey in life, I've made so many Christian friends along the way, like DJ, who was to my school. We met during, he's great. We met during Big Fish, and we were always kind of close. And then we started talking a little bit more and more, and he finally, he invited me to City. And I was like, okay, I don't really know anyone there, but I think that'll be a little fun. So I went for the first time, and I sat by myself in the corner with one of my friends, so I didn't even know who went there. We just kind of talked a little bit, and I listened, and it was great. And now I keep going more and more every day. And I don't know, it's because of him that he's inspired me to sing on stage more, which has also helped my faith, because he sings at his church as well, and he's a very incredible singer. And and yeah, it's just the people you meet along the way, and it's the people who help you, even if you don't realize that you need help.
I agree with Lexi. I think I've definitely found some lifelong friends because of church. And so, even when I became friends, not even, whenever Caleb and I started talking more, I didn't realize how much, I was missing from not only whatever I gained from having him as a friend, but also, meeting Lexi and meeting Cash. You wouldn't think the people that are brought into your life would have such an impact on you. But, even meeting the people at Young Life, meeting Mr. Lee and meeting Miss Nikki, I feel like they definitely have helped me so much. I remember I lost my cousins, and I went to my best friend's house, my best friend Simone, and Nikki actually lived across the street. She lives across the street from Simone. And so I guess Simone called her, and Nikki came over to her house, and she prayed with me about it. And I think that also was a turning point for me, because I didn't realize how supported I truly was. And then I found out people were praying for me, and people just keep me in their prayers daily. And it definitely, I think that also helped a lot, especially knowing that I have people to go to. I have people in my corner still, no matter religious or not. I know I have people, but knowing I have the support system from the Christian community, I think that also kind of just keeps me up. So
Yeah.
It was also really funny because Nikki was supposed to be somewhere with Young Life, and I was there, and she came late, and she was like, "Oh, sorry, I was helping somebody out," and told us the story later. But yeah, it was, yeah. But you find your people for sure.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that all of your friends have to be Christians and everybody that you know has to believe the same thing. But you definitely have to associate yourself with the right people in some scenarios.
Yeah, I agree. And even on my dance team, I didn't realize how many of us were true Christians until even yesterday. But there's a picture of me, my friend Sydney Cross, and then our friend Briley, and we were all praying before we did our solos. And I think that, we weren't aware that our director was taking a picture of us. We just I asked him, hey, can we pray? But now our my whole team, all of us, we all share that love, which is also something very special, because I don't think I've ever had that in my ever. I think knowing that they're there makes it so much easier, because then I also know that I can go to them if I have any questions still, because again, like, I'm not new to this, but like, I'm still trying to figure things out.
Same.
So it definitely, I think we all are, but I think having each other to like go to, definitely, it really, really helps. And I have a teacher also, my stat teacher, Ms. Brown, who's the sponsor for City. Mm-hmm. And I think also going to her and like knowing that she has a prayer request box in her room, it definitely helps too, because I know I can go to her. So it just, I mean, there's so many people everywhere, and it definitely gives you that sense of comfort and that sense of security, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, in Hairspray, in every musical we do, or every production, we always have a prayer circle right before we do our performance. And I noticed during Hairspray, every time the circle would get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was so amazing to watch God use Hairspray to reach others. And what we do is we say the Lord's Prayer, and then people jump in and say thank you or keep us safe and say their own little prayer for everyone. And just that entire group, no matter, like, I don't even know. It was so incredible. It was so crazy, because you don't realize how many people believe what you believe. And then you see it, and it's like, wow, maybe, I don't even know. I mean, it's crazy just to see how others can impact your life, and how others who you didn't even know could impact your life just by the small things like a prayer circle. Yeah. You don't even have to talk to people there. You just have to see them and know.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful thing, because even my coworker, like, she's actually one of my close friends, but her and I were talking about this yesterday, like, we've never spoken about this until yesterday, but her and I kind of started our journeys at the same time, but I feel like she is more like into it because of like her age, because she is 19 or 20, and so she has a deeper understanding than I would, because I'm obviously 17. Like, I'm still not gonna understand everything, but for her, I know I can trust her to go to, because I definitely know that she will help me understand. Like, even yesterday when I was like, I have regrets for not starting sooner, but she was like, no. Like, she said God has his timing perfectly. And so she was like, you should not be feeling like that, because that's the devil's way of saying like, hey, you suck. But I mean, I feel like having all of us, and I know that I can go to Lexi for some stuff that I can't go to Cash Borden, or I can't go to you about, like vice versa. Like, it's such a beautiful thing, because people, I feel like the world has so many ugly people, and it's like ugly ways. And so I think having this community definitely, it's the light at the end of a dark tunnel. So.
Also, just want to go back to the Hairspray prayer circle. There was one person who I thought that they didn't believe, and I didn't know where they stood. And I asked them, I was like, "Oh, you're in the prayer circle?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, I mean, I don't believe, but I did it yesterday, and it was nice. Like, it was refreshing." And like, that was just kind of like you don't even have to be like Christian really in order to pray. Like, you just pray, and he'll answer your prayers.
Power of prayer is a real thing.
Yeah.
No matter if people want to believe it or not. I think you notice a difference whenever you pray about so many things. Like, I think it's actually crazy, because even over the course of the year, like, I knew prayers worked, but I didn't understand the depth or the value of them until very, very recently. And I will be honest with that, because I think now that I pray almost every morning, not even almost, I pray every morning, but it makes a difference in my day, because I feel the Lord's presence like everywhere. And so I'm kind of like, okay, like this is a real thing. But I mean, a lot of people misconstrue the idea of prayer, because it's just like, I don't think they understand what it really means until they're like actually in it, and they're actually doing it. Like Cash said, like they said it felt nice, it was refreshing. So I mean,
yeah. Listening to you three just talk openly and honestly about what it's like to be in Christian community, I don't know, it just gives me hope for the future. all the statistics tell us that the church is dying. Numbers are down, attendance is down. People who want to claim to be a part of any type of organized religion are down. And yet, you're just talking about what it's like to actually be connected and to share your faith and to be seen and heard and to be around others who believe the same. And for me, that just gives me hope that this truth that I cling to, that the body of Christ will not die. Maybe it'll begin to look a little different. Maybe it'll have a little less judgment, a little less hard lines in the sand, less iron gates and locked doors, but there'd be more access to those secret rooms, and that there'd be more people willing to be honest and bold, just like the three of you have. I like to close by asking, what is your hope for the future of Christian community? What do you hope for the church? What do you hope for people your age or younger when it comes to Jesus? What is your hope?
I honestly hope that this next generation of kids and like all the kids that we've been seeing in church and like all the people who like are part of Pearland Kids, I hope that they still keep that in their hearts and keep like not necessarily not listening to the world and like everyone's misinterpretations about the Christian religion, about like the Bible. Like I just hope that we kind of just keep what we know like really close to our heart and like what we've learned and like what we've experienced, and not letting any outside opinions or outside like views kind of torment that, because I feel like that's also been a really big problem. I think it's a matter of, again, society being very judgmental, and we let that take a toll on us completely. I hope for so many things, but I just hope that, we still remember like our roots, if you will.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I haven't thought about like the future of the Christian community really. And I feel like we also could just be living in the past. And that's a big thing for people. And so I that's what I've been trying to do more, is just live in the present and look a couple days ahead. But it is a process. So I would say just like, I don't know, I hope that like everything just kind of, I like how it is today. I like how there's available churches nearly everywhere that you go. And yeah, I hope that it just kind of keeps growing.
Mm-hmm. I hope, like we were saying earlier, there's so much pressure to be a Christian, and I hope that pressure kind of fades away. I hope people don't feel this need to be a certain type of Christian. They can be the Christian that works for them, even no matter what social media says, no matter what other people say. I hope that this new upcoming generation, or even these current generations, can change and believe what they want to believe and not feel all this pressure to be some robotic Christian. Someone that they can be someone that believes in Jesus but doesn't feel all this pressure and this heavy weight to be this perfect human being.
Yeah, I hope so too. That's really, really good. Thank you, each of you, for being willing to come and to share your faith so openly and vulnerably. I really appreciate it. It was moving for me. And I just want to thank you for that. And thank you for tuning in to this episode of Real Talk. I hope that you'll be marking your calendars for Thursday, April 25th for live Real Talk. We're going to do a podcast on the patio at Grace Pizza. We'll have some music, live panel, and a Q&A from you, the audience. And so I hope that you'll plan to come. I hope that you will invite a friend, and I look forward to seeing you there. Until then, we'll see you on the next time of Real Talk. Real Talk Podcast is produced by First United Methodist Church Pearland in collaboration with Pearland Podcast Studios, recorded here in Pearland, Texas. We invite you to check out our website at FUMCpearland.org to check out additional events and opportunities for you to engage in real talk about faith and relationships.